Welcome to the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. I'm Larry Wagner, and I've spent 30 years working with seniors, where I was a certified senior advisor, and the last 15 years in the home buying industry as a certified senior transition specialist, where I specialize in dealing with seniors going through a transition in their lives. This podcast is for seniors, those with seniors they love, and people who work in the senior community. In each episode, we bring on a guest who works to improve the lives of seniors. This podcast is your key to unlocking senior resources. Welcome. Today we're here with Peg Callaghan from Smithtown Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing Care. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. And we had to reschedule due to some construction going on in the area. So we're here, a nice quiet day.
Yeah, I'm glad I could reschedule and be here. So
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you're with the Smithtown Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing.
Correct, yes.
And what exactly do you do? What is your title there?
So I am the admissions liaison. So I work with the admissions department, but I also go out to hospitals and I speak with social workers, or if we have anybody who is in our facility that goes out to the hospital, I'll go and visit them. And then if there's anybody that have already decided that they wanted Smithtown to be like we're their first choice for coming out of the hospital, I do try to go visit them and just say, hi, well, we're expecting you, that kind of thing. And then I also would, if the social workers say, you know what, they haven't made a decision yet, but if you want to go see them, and then I'll go see them.
So you're the first point of contact.
I am, yeah, a lot of times.
A lot of times. So how did you get to this position? How did you start in this world of senior?
So this is my second career thing. I worked many years in a different industry. And then I had gotten married late and had my kids late. So I was a stay-at-home mom for a little bit. And then when it was time to go back, I wanted to do something that was more meaningful to me. And at the time, my grandmother was just hitting her mid-80s. And, I thought it was important for her to get the care that she needed. Right. So I thought, you know what, this is an industry that, because my mother is a baby boomer and my father was not, that I knew it was an industry where it was going to start growing. Right. So that was something that I figured, I wanted to make sure that the older generation got the care that they deserved, because they really worked hard, and a lot of them were the part of the greatest generation, like my grandmother was, and just to, be able to give back. It was more of, for me, feeling like I was being helpful in a meaningful way. So, I was lucky enough to be hired by one home care agency, and I was with them for a while, and then I went to another home care agency, and I was with them for a really long time, and then I went to another home care agency, and then after the last home care agency, I made the jump to the rehabilitation. So I've been in the industry almost 10 years now. Right. So the skilled nursing facility and the rehabilitation is something that was new for me, but I wasn't unfamiliar because the grandmother that I had spoken about happened to be in a different place in Nassau County for 5 years. She was there before, during, and after COVID. So, I was familiar with that, and I thought that was a good place for me to be.
Right. It's funny you said about giving back. We do this podcast for that very reason. Seniors, of which I become one, I can't believe it, but there are seniors and there are seniors, right? So I'm a senior with a lowercase s. But I agree. They deserve a lot, especially the as you said, the greatest generation. That was my parents' generation, and a lot of them are in need of assistance. And this podcast is all a little way of creating some way of them finding out resources, and again, unlocking senior resources. That's what this is all about. And talking to people like you and learning about the Smithtown Center for Rehabilitation. So, interesting. So, you're the first point of contact. You've got a great personality. You seem lively. You seem to enjoy what you're doing, the way you're speaking. You've been doing it for 10 years. You're sort of scratching the itch of helping the senior community.
Yes.
And I've dealt with a number of admissions people in all different kinds of places. from my family's perspective and from doing the podcast. And everyone started somewhere else, stumbled across dealing with seniors because of some family issue, and ended up doing this role. And they're very happy to be that first point, or at least one of the first points of contact representing their company. And it seems to be an ongoing theme when I talk to these people who are doing something similar, parallel to you. So when you meet somebody, your job is to let them know what kind of services they can get, because your short-term and long-term stays.
Correct. Yes. So we do both.
So you have to, and you admit both types of people?
We do. Yes.
Right. Okay. So what is it that you're telling people? And there's a little fly flying around the studio.
Sorry.
He wasn't invited. What is that you're telling people about Smithtown?
Well, I first like to see what they know about us, because some people, I do find that people don't know what they're looking for, or even, they're in this situation maybe for the first time, and they don't know what it involves. They don't know that they can actually come for a tour. They don't know, different, that insurances play a part, if it's an insurance we take or we don't take. So initially what I like to go in and just say, hi, I'm Peg from Smithtown Center. I'm just wondering if you have any questions. I understand, mom is looking for a place to go, or dad's looking for a place to go, and how can I help?
Right.
And sometimes it's just a matter of, I want to make sure they're going to a good place, and we have a very good rating. So we would ask them to check our ratings and to check our reviews. So sometimes people are like, we want you because we saw your reviews.
That happens to me all the time. What reviews? Talking about Google reviews specifically, or are there other places?
No, there's Google's. I think we're on caring.com. I think maybe a place for mom. So there's other things out there.
I didn't realize a place for mom actually rated the facilities like yours. I didn't realize they did that. They rate them. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, it's part of what, it's part of one of the things that we do with them. So, sometimes we'll use them, but a lot of times we don't. We also use more like the newer places. Like there's other places out there that are more like, that people just owned, that just people opened up. So those are the places that we like to go to as well. Right. And they're like more of senior advisors. Right. That, they would use us as well.
As a financial advisor, I started mentioning this to you before we were recording. I had 880 retired clients. When I saw my practice May now, at the time of this recording was 7 years ago, my average client was 80. I had 880 clients with an average age of 80. Wow. That's a lot of 80-something-year-olds. And where's I going to go with this? But dealing with this, I forgot what I was going to say about that. You just said, I just lost my train of thought. I had a flashback to actually one of my clients who I just talking to recently.
Oh, I said that senior advisor.
A senior advisor. So I decided, since I'm dealing with all these seniors, became a certified senior advisor. I got a CLTC, a certification in long-term care. And then as a home buyer, I buy homes from senior citizens, and I got my senior transition specialist. Because I deal with seniors in that business. So I find the more designations you get, the more you learn. And, and there's so much to know. And as I'm aging into, I said, to the senior population, I'm realizing how important those things are, how much knowledge you really need to have to relate to seniors when you are not one. And so a lot of people are 30 years old in these positions dealing with seniors, and they can't possibly relate. I said, the same way a 60-year-old can relate, or a 50-year-old can relate. Well, but he had a 75-year-old. Right. So,
I think that's true. I think, since the older you are, you have the knowledge, and you've also lived it. Like, you've seen your parents get old, or you've seen your grandparents get old, or you're part of their caregiving process. So what people go through, it's something that, that you've done yourself, and that you can be more relatable to people when you speak to them, because you have the life experience of dealing with it on your own.
And have you been through it? Correct. But my grandmother lived with us for 10 years, 6 months a year, with 3 months on, 3 months off. She vacillated with my mother's sister and my aunt. And for 10 years, I gave up my bedroom. I slept somewhere in the house. It didn't matter where I slept, because that's what you do. Yeah. She's your grandmother. It's what you do. I don't think the generation today thinks that way, but it's just the way it was in the 70s and 60s. So we need a little more of that, a little more family time, multi-generational family time. But So it's important that you understand, and you do. And you're the first line of communication for the most part. And now you're meeting these people and you're talking to them. They're learning for the first time. I think most often, I imagine it's the first time. You said usually it's the first time?
A lot of times too, yeah, because, people, it's a subject like what's going to happen with mom or dad, or what happens even when they pass. Like that's a lot of people, it's still taboo to them, and they don't talk about it, or they don't want to think about it until now mom's in the hospital, and now, what's the next step? Can we bring her home? She wants to come home. Is that the best place for her? Should she go to a rehab and get her strength up first? So they have questions and they're not sure, which way to go. And I like to be there and let them know like the good thing about going to, even if you go to rehab for a little bit, you're not held captive there. But if you go to rehab and she gets stronger, and then you want to make the preparations for the house, it gives you time to set up and get everything in place. And then this way he or she could be stronger. So it's things that people might not have thought about that is an option once you they hear you speak.
We've just been through this in my family. My mother-in-law was in rehab for quite a while, in hospital and rehab for 3 months at the beginning of the year. And it's absolutely, you get your ducks in a row while she's in rehab. When she was in the hospital, we didn't know what was happening.
Exactly.
When she was in rehab, we now knew it was. She was stable at that point. And now we know we have to start getting aids. So when she comes home, we'll have aids in place and so on and so forth. So you're right. You buy the time in rehab in addition to the fact they're in a safer environment as well. And people are hesitant. People are hesitant to move to a nursing home or assisted living for sure. And that somehow I imagine the rehab is a much easier transition because in their minds, that's typically temporary.
Right. And most of the time it really is temporary. Yes. And I think a lot of it there is, I think people, they hear stories like from back in the day, like, oh, you're going to send me to rehab and I'm never coming home. Right. No, the point is we want you to get better. Right. We want you to go to rehab. We want you to, do your exercises and we want you to get stronger. And the ultimate goal is go home. Like that's what we really want. And I think a lot of people too, the older seniors who, when the family's making the decision, they're like, I want to go home. I just want to go home. And it might not be the best place for them. But I think also in their head, they're very afraid that they're going to go there and that's where they're going to stay. Right. And that's really not what we're about. We're about getting you better and sending you home.
That's what rehabilitation's all about.
Exactly.
But again, when you're doing long-term stays, it's designed for long-term stays.
Right. We have that availability as well.
Is it the same facility or is it different parts of the facility? How does that work?
It's the same facility. We try to do the long-term people are on the bottom floor and the subacute people are on the second floor. Right. But that doesn't mean they get, they don't get put in different spots for different reasons at times. But majority, that's the way it is. And there's always something going on in the facility, whether, even for the long-term people, like maybe they're not getting the, the physical therapy anymore. We do offer physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy if needed, as well. Right. But we also have events that go on all the time. We have an amazing recreation center. There is always something happening. And it's like we have a big calendar of events. So if anybody wanted to check our website, the calendar of events is on there and it's monthly. And then even sometimes, even if it's not listed, we do have like musical people that stroll around for people that can't get out of bed. And we have pet therapy on the weekend. And we even had, just recently we had, I think they were guinea pigs, and they were on the table and they were doing like their little guinea pig thing and everybody was around the table watching. It was cute. So there's always, something going on. We do, nail polish and we do glamour days and, and once it's like now that it's finally getting nice, we have a beautiful patio where people can go out and sit outside and we do some events out there as well. So there's always something happening there. Yeah,
I looked at your website. It said you had 10 acres of land.
We do have a lot of land.
Which sounds like that's a lot of land for what you do. And how many beds do you have in your?
We have 164.
164 beds. That's 10 acres a lot for 164 beds. So
yes, well, there's a lot of greenery and it's a pretty landscape. And if they're able and can either, somebody can take them out. And there's actually like a little sidewalk path that they can go on. and get outside. They can sit in the front of the building. They can sit at the patio. Oops.
Yep,
they can sit. They can sit on the patio.
Yeah.
We have umbrellas and tables, and it's nice.
Very nice. I remember my mother. I say this so often on this podcast. She told me, never ever put me in a nursing home like we did to my mother, my grandma I mentioned, who was in my house for 10 years, then spent another 10 years in a nursing home. She started with us at 70 to 80 and then 80 to 90 in a nursing home. And my mother would never do that to me. My mother ended up being so much worse off than my grandmother was seeing. My mother had Lewy body dementia. So she was not mobile, not verbal. She was nothing. And she was just basically a vegetable at that point. And it was so sad. But she had to be in a facility and there was no choice. But I keep thinking she's going to, one day when I go meet her again, she's going to smack me. And I told her, don't put me there. But it was a wonderful place because she went there when she was well.
Yes.
And then she sort of physically deteriorated. She was there and she made a lot of friends while she was well. So it worked out really nicely as far as, for the 2 years she was there when she was well. And it was much better because people would still come and visit her and so on, even though she couldn't respond to them. People cared about her.
Exactly.
So these places do become they're a good place to be versus being isolated in your own home.
Yes, I happen to agree with that because it's social. Like even if somebody didn't want to participate in bingo, that's fine. Like try very hard to get people out of the room.
Right.
That each wing has its own area where you can be out in your wheelchair and you don't need to do much, but you can watch TV with other people, or there's somebody to say hello to, or you can wheel yourself over to the nurse's station. So there's always, it's like we try very hard to get people socialized and stimulated and excited about,
one thing
about life and doing stuff.
Stimulate's a great word. But when you said watching TV with other people, I just talking to my son this morning. Last night he went to Madison Square Garden to watch the Knicks in a playoff, but they weren't playing in Madison Square Garden.
Right? Yes, I had heard that.
They just watched on the big jumbotron, which is a terrible screen to watch on. But it's the sense of having thousands of people around you that made it worth going into the city, paying to sit in a crappy little chair. You could be at home, comfortable on your couch, watching on a much better television, right? But it was the camaraderie that makes the difference. And all you're doing is watching television. It happens to be a sports game, you're watching TV. It makes a difference having people around.
Yes.
And people don't understand that until they don't have people around. And that's when they really start. And when you get to compare the two, it becomes so obvious.
Yes.
It becomes so obvious. So as an admissions person, you must have some stories of people. I actually interviewed the admissions person from where my parents had stayed.
Okay.
And I was telling her admission story, dealing with my father in particular, who was very, very a wonderful man, but was very difficult, very, very difficult with her. And but do you have interesting stories or something?
I don't know if it's interesting, but I think for me, being in the hospitals, like I know I have had a client or two a patient or two come to us because I was in visiting somebody else.
Oh, interesting.
And, a lot of times because people's hearing isn't that great. I'm a loud talker sometimes in the hospital, so they can hear.
I'm a loud talker, and Heap's hearing is just fine where I am.
So they hear me, and then I'll come from behind the curtain, and they're like, "Where are you from? You have a card? You want to give me?" So I know that I've gotten people to come to us that way, just because they know that I'm coming to visit.
So apparently, at the Smithtown Center for Rehabilitation, you have better. The chance of being a good hearing person is greater because that's getting a lot of people who have really acute hearing.
Well, yeah, because I'm not. But no, I think it's a lot of word of mouth. It's a lot of where I am at the time. Like I was because I'm in Stony Brook a lot. I mean, there was another time I had somebody come to us because I happened to be sitting in the lounge area. I wanted to write something up before I got on the elevator. I was right outside the elevator, and this family came around and they said, "All right, these are the places that they gave us to look at, for rehab." And I go, "Oh, can I? I'm Peg from Smithtown Center. Are we on there?" And they were like, you are. And I said, oh, well, how, you have any questions? And then it was just, they're like, oh, it was a sign, like you were here.
Right. Yes.
And, so that made it, worthwhile for me and for them, because then they already know who I am. So then when I think it was somebody's sister, when the sister was admitted to us, I already knew the sister because I met her at the hospital. Yeah. And the sister knew who I was because we met at the hospital. So, I told her where I sit in the admission. When I'm in the office, I sit in the admissions office. If you want to knock on my door and say hello, which she did, which I like that. Right. So, and if they have any questions or concerns, and they might not, especially in the beginning, they might not be sure who to ask, they know that they can come to me.
Hi, I'm Larry. And I'm Ben. We're the father and son team of Leave the Key Homebuyers, and we want to buy your house.
We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you are going through.
So if you're considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out and see how we can help.
Do you have an outdated home?
No need to update anything.
Have a home that needs repairs?
Don't bother with repairs.
Don't want to take everything with you?
Leave whatever you want behind.
Dreading the headaches that come with agents?
Sell your home without paying a commission.
Dreading prying neighbors, attending open houses, and passing judgment on your home?
No need for public showings.
When you sell to us, you'll have all the certainty of closing on your timeline, not someone else's, and there's absolutely no pressure.
Visit leavethekey.com or call us today for a no-obligation offer at 631-388-7771 if you want to sell your home today.
Right. So. You're all so important. I remember again, my in-laws are in independent living, and as were my parents when they were around. And the admissions person was like the most important person to get them in the door. Because you represent the tenor of the organization. Mm-hmm. And if you're a cold and just the facts kind of person, I'm assuming it's a cold and just the facts kind of person, and my folks would be treated like a number. And the two people we dealt with were so warm and endearing and inviting. And they became like a family member in the first appointment, just meeting them for the first time. Yeah,
you have to be. And that's important. But I think for me, and I guess a lot of other people on the roll, is that that's something that you believe in and you want people to feel comfortable. Because it's, it can be scary, and it's usually your mom or dad, and they took care of you their whole life, and now it's your turn to do the right thing by them, and you want to make sure that they're put in the right spot, and you want to make sure that the nursing staff is taking care of them, and you want to make sure that they're not left alone. So, if there's I do my job bringing them in, but I can certainly help if anything else goes on. But I can tell you we have an amazing nursing staff. Everybody's on top of their game. They don't like to see anybody in pain. They're good about answering the call bell.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
That's an issue. That call bell. When you wait 20, 30, 40 minutes, you have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And they just don't respond.
Yeah. And sometimes, and I just know this from my grandmother too, is that I'll be like, Graham, you gotta go to the bathroom. No. And then she waits until she really has to go. And I'm like, well, the lady was here 10 minutes ago and you didn't have to go. Now I'm going to try to find her. Right. But it doesn't mean she's not in the bathroom with somebody else either. Yeah. So, I think timing is a bit of it too, because a lot of times I think they wait.
Right.
But no, they're very good about answering the call bell. And if you have any questions, there's always somebody available to answer your question. We also have a concierge in our place. So, and he actually, he'll welcome the person, and we have a little welcome basket, welcome bag that we give people. And he also does, we do surveys. So we do a survey after 72 hours, and then we do a survey at discharge, because we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And of course, if anything comes up in between, it would be addressed. We also have our housekeeping. They are very good about keeping things clean. And that's one of because sometimes I'll give tours, and that's one of the things that they get commented on, like, oh, this place is pretty clean. Mm-hmm. And, some places I guess they go into and it's not, but they're very serious about, the hygiene and the cleanliness of the place. So,
my mother-in-law was in 2 different facilities because she had needed care the year before, and it was day and night. The care, everything was from bottom to top was totally different. And it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
It makes a
difference.
huge difference. And it was my mother-in-law, it was my wife's mother. And again, she had lived in our house, in our apartment for 30 years, and we're very close. In addition to being my mother-in-law. And the thought of her being in another place was so disturbing, but it was relatively short term.
Right.
And if she survived it and got out, but if that was a long-term facility, there's no way would have kept her there. You just didn't want to move her at that point. It was just to me for a few weeks.
Right, right.
It was a few weeks that shouldn't have existed. So in the next place we went to, which is a whole nother issue and a whole nother, I don't want to say another ailment or whatever the word would be.
Right.
We weren't going back there anymore. And we went 5 minutes, 5 minutes further. Actually, 5 minutes better for us and day and night. So yes. So cleanliness makes it, that was the first thing I noticed actually, was how clean the new place was. And when it's clean, when they're paying attention to how clean you keep it, they're paying attention to everything. Right. And I really do believe that. So let's talk food. That's always a big issue on these places.
It is an issue.
Especially for your long-term people. I know that's like the topic of conversation in every independent living facility and so on, which you're not, but they have nothing to talk about. They talk about how bad the food is. No matter how good it is, they always complain. Senior citizens have no more taste buds, very much. Right. So nothing's tasty enough.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like the food, depending on the person, some people say the food was excellent, and some people are like, that's not really the kind of food I'm used to.
That's right.
But it's also, like most of the people, they're on a special diet. So it's like less sugar or no salt or, so it's not going to have all the extra zing to it that they might get at home. It's really, it's being monitored by the nursing staff, by the doctors, by the, the people that cook the food. So they know that, it's not going to be like they're used to. It's not.
And that's on both sides of the facility, for the long term and the short term.
And the short term, yeah, they get the same meals.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so they do cater them, even for the long term people, meals that are appropriate for their
diet.
The diet. Because I hear sometimes that's not the case. And
dietary's on top of it. And, there's some people, we can take people who are on feeding tubes. Right. So they have their own thing going on. But dietary works very hard to, keep the meals appropriate to whatever their diagnosis is. Right, right. And to get it out quick and to get it out hot and all that stuff.
Hot, what a novel idea.
I know.
What a novel idea.
But they do their best. And some people, when they eat it right away, it's the right temperature. And some people, they don't get to it right away. And then they complain that it's cold. But
it's been there for 30 minutes, but it's cold.
Exactly. So, that we really do the best that we can. Right. And like I said, it's not a 4-star restaurant, but it is healthy and it is nutritional and it is what they're, catered to their diet. So
healthy is critical. And again, as they lose, I was talking to someone else that they try to use different seasonings, not salt or sodium, to make food tastier. Because as you get older and your taste buds become desensitized, I think mine were never sensitized. I don't taste anything. So I won't have a problem when I'm older. I don't care. But as they become desensitized, that's why seniors tend to salt food a lot to bring out the flavor because they don't taste. So some of the chefs try to use alternative methods for bringing flavor out in food that don't raise the sodium levels, which is so important. It sounds like you guys are very conscious of that, of sodium. Yes. Because that's probably one of the single biggest issues. And so that's good to hear. So let's talk about rooms. Okay. Are they singles, doubles?
So we have, most of our rooms are doubles. Right. There's no more than doubles. There's no more than 2 in a room. We do have a few private rooms. Those are mostly for people who need to be, it's for medical reasons that they can't be with another roommate. Right. So for those people, we do have those rooms available so that this way they can be separate and, again, with the hygiene and the germs and the things like that, just to keep them separate from the rest of the population.
I'm asking this question out of ignorance. Sure. I've never asked this before. It seems like such an obvious question to me now. How does it work putting 2 strangers in one room? Typically, I know we own my son and I own apartments in some nursing homes in Illinois, and I've never asked. And there's mostly doubles.
Right. So we do it, unless it's a married couple, because then we have had them together. They're either female rooms or male rooms.
I would imagine.
And then it also depends on, so we would put somebody in a room because it would be available.
Right.
Right. And then if for some reason there's a roommate issue or somebody needs to go have a private room because something medical stuck up on them, we can always make a change. But normally it's really seeing what's available and how we can keep the same genders together. But there's always, like I tell people, if you get there and you're not happy and you need to make a change, they can do that. It's just a matter, let's get there first. Right. And then we can make any changes that you need.
So when you put 2 women or 2 men in a room, do they tend to become friends?
You know what?
Or not necessarily?
It depends. Yeah. There are people who leave there, best friends. Right. They'll go to activities together and they'll do things together. And we even have a couple of times a week, we have a hairdresser that comes. So, they might get their hair done together and things like that. And then there's other people that, there's some people that you can no matter who you put with them, they're not happy. Right. That kind of thing. But we really do try our best to, make a cohesive rooming situation. Right.
Okay, that's important. I always wondered about putting 2, when you're in college, and they stick you in a room with someone else, or in case in the SUNY's upstate New York, and 2 people in a room designed for 3 people in a room designed for 2. And somehow, more often than not, way more often than not, they get along and become friends. Right. But we're young and still being molded. When you're older, you don't want to be molded anymore. You're pretty much kind of, you've been fired. Your clay's been fired. So I can see it being much harder to get along. But no one's ever told me about it being an ongoing problem, putting 2 unrelated people.
And most of the time it's not. Yeah. There might be one person who's difficult, that nobody you put with them is going to be a good match. Or there's somebody who, maybe somebody, I don't know, is loud at night when you just want to sleep, that kind of thing. But that's something that we could always address and move people, and it's taken care of. So, but for the most part, I want to say they really do get along.
That's good to hear. Yeah. I never asked that. So many people sit in your seat. I've never asked the question.
I'm glad I could answer.
I'm glad you could answer. I always wonder about that, but somehow never got there. So with that said, so you do the short term, you do the long term stays, you offer all sorts of activities all day long and so on. Correct. The meals are all custom tailored to their health. You have a beautiful campus where they can go outside, and you have 10 acres of land with lots of greenery. What other things would you have to say about your facility on either side, meaning the rehabilitation side or the long term side?
I don't know if I spoke about the physical therapy team, but really that's the heart of it. If you're going there to rehabilitate, it's the physical therapy team. And what's amazing is that I get to see the surveys that, remember I told you the concierge does the surveys, and everybody is always so happy with them. So they do a fantastic job. We have, in the room, we have like a car, like so that when people go home, like the families know the proper way to get somebody in and out of the car. We have the beds. Yeah, so we do, there's training for the families before they go home. And then there's training for the client themselves, the patient themselves. So, they really do a good job, and they meet the person where they're at. And the other thing is, a lot of times people, especially when I do tours, they ask, well, how long do you think it'll take Dad, to get better? Right. And, that answer is really, it's up to Dad. Right. There are some people who might, we might think he might be there for a month, and then they're only there for 3 weeks because hella high water, they're getting out of there, and they're getting out of there quicker than, sooner than later. And then there's other people who may have given up a little bit, and you got to try to, I think mental's a big piece of it too, that you have to, try to, move them along. So they might take longer. And then there's people that finish when they're expected because they do exactly what's expected. So, but they are really good at what they do. And I always get good feedback on them.
Well, that's good. When you're a rehabilitation center, you have to have good physical therapy.
Exactly.
How much physical therapy do people get a day? Does it vary, or is it?
It does vary. We go by the doctor's orders, but we do the physical therapy 6 days a week. Okay. And it's usually, it can be up to 45 minutes a day. But it all depends on what the person can tolerate. Right. So, and then that's something that's always changing,
Right.
And they can do more, their sessions can go longer, and they have their so each person that comes in, they have a team. So they have their nursing person and they have their PT person and they have somebody for everybody meets
Right.
the family and they go over, and then they do care plans, and then the family's brought in when they talk about the care plan and how they're doing and when the anticipated discharge date will be.
Right. Do you have family meetings? So because typically kids are involved, as you were saying. I know in my in-laws case that was the case as well. Do you have meetings to update the family and as to what the progress is? Okay.
Yes, so that's something that social work would do.
Okay.
So social worker would be the ones to update the family. They would help them with the discharge plan, whether it be recommending. Some people can just go home and they're good.
Right.
Some people will go home with the recommendation of home care. And we have people that we would give a list to, and
Right.
they can call and find out which is appropriate for their loved one. The other thing I want to mention too is that we do comfort care. So if somebody is at end of life
Right.
and they're not doing any more extraordinary measures,
Yep.
and they just want to, have a comfortable place and make sure that they're comfortable before the end,
Yeah.
that is something we can accommodate as well.
Okay. Is that the same as hospice care, or is it different because they're not in pain or anything?
Right. It's just managing the medications
Right,
and
okay.
making sure that they're comfortable.
Okay.
So we wouldn't do any, like I said, extraordinary things. We
Right,
wouldn't. So it's more of, this is where they're at. We know it's at the end, and
Right.
we'll just keep them comfortable until it's time to pass.
Right. That's a tough one. I remember we had that with my father, and luckily he passed the morning they were moving him into hospice. And the morning before they moved him, he had passed overnight, and it was just quiet and easy, and it was better. It was inevitable. So the longer is not the better in that case.
No.
So that to me is the rough part of the job. That was the rough part of dealing with his being sick. He was only sick for a couple of weeks, but when you knew it was over, that's when it got really hard.
Yeah.
And you always have hope until you don't.
Exactly.
And but so it's the way the staff deals with the family in a situation like that is so critical. And if that's part of what you do,
Yes, absolutely.
you people that are experienced dealing with that, which
and that's
is
the
huge.
part that even hurts my heart. I went to see somebody on Friday, and he was, in the hospital, and he was sitting up, and we spoke for a little bit, and then I heard this morning that he had passed, and I'm like, no, it breaks my heart too. But
Yes.
I understand.
I think our voices got lower during this part of the conversation. It's very relatable on a family level and a career professional level.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the happier parts of this.
Sure.
So I was going to make a comment. So your facility, is there anything you do that you would say meaning the organization, the facility, that makes you more appealing than the others? You have a nice campus. Smithtown's a great town, which I love too. Smithtown's a wonderful town. You actually have a town.
That's true. Yes, it's my town.
That's your town. Oh, there you go. It's a very good commute then as well.
It's a wonderful commute.
So what other things can you say? You've said a lot. I don't know if there's other things you haven't said yet that you'd like to include.
I think the biggest piece of it is, we always try our best.
Right.
If we come short somewhere, we want to fix it.
Right.
I think people sometimes, if something's not going right or they see something, they're like, I'm not going to bring it up because, I want them to treat mom, I don't want them to be mad at mom because I mentioned something. And there really are people who have that mentality.
Been to my mother-in-law. Oh, absolutely. To my wife. Don't say anything. Right. Don't say. Yeah, exactly.
But we can't fix.
Right. What you don't know.
What we don't know. So nobody's going to be mean. Nobody's going to be spiteful. As a matter of fact, we'll look in on you. If you think she's not being looked in on enough, we'll look in on her more. Like things like that.
Right.
We're doing our job. But if you think that it's missing something or you didn't like the way something was handled, let somebody know, because we really want to fix it. We really want to be our best.
Right.
So if there's something that we can do, please let us know, because that's the only way we can fix it, is if we know about it. And we definitely want to fix it because, we care. And if you don't think mom or dad's getting the care that they deserve, then we want to know about it so we can fix it.
So funny. I usually ask people, what's the biggest takeaway and from this podcast you would like people to glean? And to me, I'm going to ask you the question, but to me that's the answer. It's your staff, and it's the idea that you're always trying to not so much be better on a global basis, but be better on an individual basis. You're trying to accommodate every single person to what they're looking for. Right. And I just listen to you say that, and it's so foreign to so many organizations I see. These are our rules. We're going to check in on mom every 4 hours, and that's the way it is. But mom needs me to check in every 2 hours. And you're going to say, okay, if that'll make you happy, we'll do what we can. Well, obviously within reason. There's things people ask you just can't do. The whole world is not reasonable.
No.
The whole world is, and when you have a sick parent or a sick spouse, you're even more unreasonable. Mm-hmm. So with that said, and the fact that you do, was it 72 hour? You said with a survey? The survey? Mm-hmm. That says something as well. They're just there a short time, 3 days, and you want to know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Exactly. So you can make the rest of their stay even better.
Yeah, and that's what we strive to do. And you're right, it really isn't, it is the whole facility, but when you're talking about my mom, I don't really care about the whole facility. I want to know what you're doing for my mom. And I think, the care that we give speaks volumes to that. And if we're doing something that needs a correction, or we need to up it, or whatever you think mom needs, because that's your mom and we want to be doing the right thing by her, then let us know. We'll be happy. If it's reasonable and we can accommodate, we'll do it.
Right. That's huge. That's huge. Mm-hmm. But is that the big takeaway? I'm
going to make that be the takeaway.
There you go. I made your job easy. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, again, I do this a lot. And I haven't heard anyone say that 72-hour survey. I don't know if other people do and don't mention it, but it's a big deal to me because my mother-in-law didn't get it in 2 places. In either place, she didn't get it. And it would have been really helpful if she did. And the fact that she was scared in both places to say something when she wasn't happy. Right. And scared to have my wife say something. My wife ignored my mother-in-law and said it anyway. See, because that's what they have to do.
But I also think too, like that was something, my grandmother, when she passed, she was 97. So for that older generation, that's a scary thing to them. And nursing home and rehabilitation places have come a long way since they were. So, and it's just to put their mind at ease that, you can talk to us and promise we're not going to make you sit in a wet diaper. Like, that's not what we do. Our job is to care for you, and we want to give you the best care. So if there's something you think we can do better, let us know.
Awesome. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like people to have information to get in contact with you. What's the best way for people to contact you?
So if anybody wanted to contact me, there's 2 ways to get in touch with me. My office number is 631-361-2020.
631-361-2020.
Yes, and that's the main number. But like I said, if I'm in the office, I'm sitting in admissions. So you can press option 1 for admissions, and somebody will answer the phone.
You're number 1.
Exactly, we're number 1. And then the other thing is, if I'm not in the office and I'm on the road, I do have a cell phone. And my cell phone number is 631-347-5363. And you can either call me or text on that number.
I want to put 631-347...
5363.
5363. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they can call you and they can text you on that second number.
Correct.
Okay. And there's a website, I assume.
Yes. It's the website? Smithtown Center. .com, I believe.
SmithtownCenter.com. Okay. And Smithtown Center of Rehabilitation, of Nursing and Rehabilitation. Right, get backwards.
So if you just Google Smithtown Center,
there you go.
That'll come up.
There you go. Perfect. You don't go on the website too often. You know everything about it.
Yes.
You know everything about it. So I thank you very much for coming today.
Of course. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unlocking Senior Resources podcast by Leave the Key. If you've enjoyed this episode or found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast. We specialize in working with seniors who are transitioning out of their homes, and we understand what you are going through. So if you are considering selling your home and would like an alternative to the traditional overwhelming process, reach out to see how we can help. When working with us, you can sell your home in its current condition, there is no need to remove unwanted items, and you control when the house is sold, along with so many other advantages. Visit leavethekey.com or call us at 631-388-7771 to learn more about our senior home buying process.